Hello everyone! So you've been learning to define objects using classes, and we're going to use those skills now in order to rewrite this bouncing ball example. Here the code on the right, is simple enough. It's what we did a while ago, and you've already rewritten this one time using arrays so that you can have lots and lots of bouncing objects. Today we're going to rewrite it so that you're actually creating a ball class so that you can have a ball object and then order the ball object around. Just the same way you did with turtles. Only I made turtle, and this time you're going to make the ball object. Alright, so let's get into it. So before actually creating the class that's called ball, I want to imagine what kinds of methods do I want the ball object to have? What kinds of things do I want to be able to ask it or to tell it to do? So my hope is I want to be able to replace each line here with what we're actually telling the ball to do. So here I'm telling it to change its x speed and change its y speed. I guess I think about those as one step. That's sort of move based on speed. So let's pretend I had an object called ball. I would want to be able to say ball dot update position, maybe. You could name these whatever you want. You might want to call this move, for example. Yeah, let's call it move. That's just kind of shorter. Okay, so what is this saying in English? This is saying if the x-coordinate is greater than 600, then reverse the speed. So really what I want to say is I'm asking the ball is hitting the right-hand side of the screen. So I want to know, is the ball hitting the right-hand side of the screen? If that's true, then I want to tell the ball to reverse the x speed. So this is the goal. We haven't made any of these commands yet. I'm just sort of pretending. I wish these commands existed. And I know that I know how to make them because the code that I'm deleting is the exact code I'm going to put inside the ball object to make these methods happen. Alright, so now I want to say ball.is hitting left. And if that's true, I also want to reverse the x speed. And now I want to say if ball.is hitting bottom or ball.is hitting top, then I want to reverse the y speed. Okay, and then here, I want to let the ball draw itself, so I'm going to have a draw command. But in order for the ball to draw itself, the ball needs a graphics window to draw onto. Because this says extends papplet, and papplet is a graphics window, I'm going to take this, which refers to the current object that's running, so it refers to this papplet, and I'm going to give this as an input to the draw command, because that's going to sort of bundle up this graphics window, hand it to the ball, so that way the ball can use the graphics window to draw itself onto. Okay, we'll want to add more methods soon, but for the moment, let's go ahead and go into the project, and I'll right-click and say New Class, and I want to call the class Ball, and here's what it looks like. I'm going to drag it over here so that we can sort of see it side by side the way that you've made classes before. Okay, so remember, you always need to put what are the variables you want your ball to have. Those are called the fields sometimes. Then you need the constructor, which is what constructs the ball object by giving values to the variables. And then we'll have other methods, including getter and setter methods. Alright, so what variables does the ball need? Well, the ball needs all of these variables, right? So I'm just going to cut them all and paste them all up here. So the ball needs an x and a y and an x speed and a y speed and diameter. Okay, for the constructor, public, and then there's no return, not even void. And it's got to have the same name as the class. And then it's going to take some inputs. And the inputs, I think, are going to be an x and a y, and an x speed, and a y speed. Well, you know what? I'm not going to give it the speeds as inputs. Let's just give it the diameter as an input. Okay, and so now I'm going to say this.x equals x, this.y equals y, this.diam equals diam. And then, so that we're really clear, I'm going to set the x speed to 0 and the y speed to 0. So when you first create a ball object that's not moving at all by default, and then we'll have other methods that will let you tell it to move. So now that I've done that, I don't want to be setting values up here. Because there's a shift in the thinking. I know you're typing along here, but I want you to pay attention to the shift in the thinking. Before, we were creating a specific ball object where we could say, I want it to start at 300, 300, I know what's going to happen. What we're doing now is we're creating a blueprint for what does it mean to be a ball object. So a ball object has all of these facts. But the reason we don't want to assign 300, 300 is because now we're thinking more general purpose. I want to be able to reuse this ball object in lots and lots of different programs. So I'm trying to think more broadly than just what am I trying to do with it right now in this program. I'm trying to think what would be useful for the ball to be able to have. What do I want to be able to set it to initially? Alright, so far so good. So let's go ahead and add some of the other methods. I'm just going to kind of scroll my eye down here. I see we've got a move method and is hitting right, a reverse X speed. So let's start adding these. Public something move something. So I want you to get in the habit of thinking what should the input and what should the output from this command be. And in order to know the answer, you have to imagine what do you want move to actually do. Well, when I run move, what I want it to do is I want it to change the ball XY coordinates by using the ball XY speeds. So I don't need to take an input. I don't need to give it some numbers here because all the numbers I need are already inside the ball object. I'm going to use the X speed and the Y speed. So I don't need any input. And it's also not giving me back any answer over here. I'm not saying like result equals something. All it's doing is it's changing the facts that are inside the ball object. It's changing the variables. So I don't need a return value, so that should be void. And now I'm just going to say x equals x plus x speed and y equals y plus y speed. Because that's what's going to move me based on my own speed. And if you want to, what a real programmer would do is put a comment up here that kind of briefly explains what this method does. So updates ball coordinates based on ball x speed and y speed. If you're just programming for yourself and it's a very small program that is really obvious to you, you probably don't need comments like this. It's a good practice, though, if you're programming a larger thing that you're going to forget when you come back to it in 6 months or if there's other programmers involved. So let's collapse the comment. Well, I guess I'll leave the comment open. Okay, so that's move. Let's do is hitting right. So public void is hitting right. Okay, so again, let's think about the inputs and the outputs. It doesn't need any input because I'm just asking about the ball's x coordinate because I'm asking is it hitting the right-hand side of the screen. However, I don't want the return to be void because look at how I'm using it. I'm putting it in an if statement. And I've named the variable like it's a question. Is it hitting the right? Yes or no? So this is supposed to return true or false based on this question. So I'd want to return Boolean. So you can do the same thing you would have done before. You can say if x is greater than 600, return true, otherwise return false. For more advanced programmers, there's a trick you can use. That's not really a trick. There's a way to shorten this. Notice that x greater than 600, this already returns true or false. X greater than 600, if it's true, we're going to return true. If x greater than 600 is false, we're going to return false. So why not just return whatever this thing actually evaluates to, because it's the same. If this is true, I want to return true. If this is false, I return false. So really, I just want to return this thing right here that's highlighted. So you can do that. You can just say return x greater than 600. And that's even shorter. Alright, so far so good. We've got a move, we've got an is hitting right. Let's make the reverse x speed, and I'll let you fill in the, and draw, and I'll let you fill in the other ones. So, public void reverse x speed. And then we did that by saying x speed equals negative x speed. And then draw is a little bit tricky just because you're passing in a papplet. So we're going to say public void draw, and then papplet is the input, and I'm going to call it window. And you got to import that. And before, in order to draw, you would have said ellipse xy diameter diameter, because that draws the ellipse. Now this isn't valid because ellipse is not a built-in command to Java. Ellipse is a command that only exists for paplets. So when we were in this class over here, this class is a papplet, so we could say ellipse and it would know what we were talking about. Over here, in this side, this is not a papplet. This is our ball object, so I can't say ellipse. And that's the whole reason why we need a papplet. We need a graphics window because we need to be able to use that ellipse command. So when we said this on this side, we bundled up our window. We passed it as input to draw here. And so now we can say window dot. And notice that this is the same kind of thing that you do whenever you run a command on an object or whenever you run a method on an object. So we're asking the window to please draw us an ellipse. All right, so that's that. As a last step, let's, on this side, actually create the ball object. So up here, I'll say ball, lowercase ball. Maybe let's call it B all around. Well, here, I'll change them all at once. I just don't want you to think that the variable name here is magic. It's not like it has to be called ball because this one's called ball. You can call this whatever you want. Bob, Sally. You know, this is the same pattern as any variable declaration. If we're going to say int n is the variable, it's holding an integer. Here b is a variable, it's holding a ball object. And then down in setup, we want to say b equals new ball, and we've got to give it inputs that match whatever the constructor wants. So here xy 600 600 or 300 300, and then the diameter I'll make maybe 60. So again, I've got 3 sets of variables as input here. I've got 3 values that I'm assigning to the constructor inputs. All right. Well, you can't run it yet because you still have to make is hitting left, is hitting bottom, is hitting top, and reverse y speed. So why don't you make those yourself? And when you're done, it should run just the way that the other one ran. And then watch video 2 where we're going to do some cool stuff with them. Well, we'll do cool stuff in video 3. Video 2 will add a couple of other kind of nice features.